Senator Lincoln Chafee is a former U.S. Senator from Rhode Island. He was elected as a Republican, but nearly 10 years later, he's now an independent seeking the governor's office. So we just heard Brown say, quote, the people's seat. Now, it's very interesting. David Gergen last night said on our air something about that comment. And take a listen. I want to get your reaction.
But I want to emphasize something about what Scott Brown did and why he's different in part. Well, if you went to his website during the campaign, it was hard to find. I don't think it's on there that he's a Republican. He ran strictly as an independent. He didn't identify.
Pretty smart.
He was very smart. He didn't have the Republican heavyweights come in. He didn't have the establishment come in. He essentially ran an anti-establishment campaign. And what Democrats have to be concerned about tonight is not simply Massachusetts, but there are a lot of polls in other states now. In fact, around the country, you find that generally speaking, independents are breaking about 2-to-1 against Democrats right now.
So what do you think, Senator? Gergen said that was very smart. You agree?
Yes, absolutely. And the facts support that there are more people registering as independents and they're voting more independently. And we're seeing that in the recent elections in New Jersey for governor, Virginia for governor, and now in Massachusetts, a very, very blue state. The independents have spoken very loudly. They voted 62% a year ago for Barack Obama. Just 1 year later, for 53% for a Republican to go to the U.S. Senate. So very, very important swing of the voters in 1 year in Massachusetts.
Just looking at the impact of the independent voter, specifically in the Scott Brown race, do independents really stand for something, or is this a group that just goes for the contrarian vote?
I think they're very well-informed voters, and certainly in Massachusetts it was a combination of events. Scott Brown got a message on the health care, and then Martha Coakley stumbled in that she thought she had the election won after winning the Democratic primary. So a combination of events, but the independent voters were listening to Scott Brown's message on health care. There was no doubt about that. And they're restless. The voters are restless. They want to see the two parties working together, and that certainly hasn't happened under this administration, unfortunately. The stimulus bill came through Congress with a very partisan vote. Now health care is very partisan. So I think the independents are restless.
Interesting, you use the word restless. I mean, I remember covering Ross Perot back in the early 90s, and, we thought that was going to be a game changer, and it sort of vanished. And so now we see the impact of the independents here, and you mentioned a couple other examples as well last year. So are we seeing a legitimate third party coming about here, or is this just a group of restless voters or frustrated voters, as you sort of pointed out there?
No, I think there's opportunity for a new third party, whatever it might be called, to get things done for the country. And certainly I'm running as an independent here in Rhode Island for governor, hoping that is true, that there's a new way forward to get things done here in my state. But I think voters across the country, we're seeing it in Virginia, in New Jersey, now in Massachusetts. They want the two parties to work together. And health care is a real issue. Our emergency rooms in our hospitals are full of people getting their primary care in our emergency rooms. That's unacceptable. We need to do something about that, and yet we seem to be unable to even move in any way in a bipartisan manner. And so the voters here have spoken.
Interesting, because you were a Republican and you're now an independent. What caused the switch? What was that moment? Why did you do it?
Well, after I lost my Senate election in 2006, I saw that the Republicans, despite having lost many races across the country, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Montana, Rhode Island, across the country we lost, and yet they didn't change. They still were talking about the social issues and not addressing what I thought the Americans really cared about: the environment, the deficit, the wars, personal liberties enshrined in our Constitution, particularly warrantless wiretapping. And so I thought I wanted to try something different, and I disaffiliated from the Republican Party, now running for office as an independent.